This video will show you how to create a custom course for CSAwesome and check your students' progress, set up assignments, and grade them. If you go to the CSAwesome.org site, you will see that on the left side there are some help pages called the Runestone Instructor Guide. And each one of these things, like creating a custom course, checking student progress, making assignments, those each have a page of help in here. And a lot of them refer to the Runestone Academy site, where Brad has made some good videos on all of these as well. So you can learn about these individually as well. So the first thing you need to do is create a custom course from the CSAwesome course and have your students enroll in it. The reasons to do this is so that you can see their student progress and have access to the instructor's page. You'll also be able to set up assignments and grade them. But be aware that once you set up a custom course, there's also the public course, CSAwesome, and then your custom course. So you will have to make sure your students are in the right course so that you can see their progress. So for example, if I go to the CSAwesome site, right now I am in my custom course test copy. That's why on the left side here it says test copy. If I was in the public course and not logged in, it would just say CSAwesome. So let's make a custom course. To do this, the easiest way is if you first go to CSAwesome or the Runestone site and go to the main page by clicking on the Runestone icon here. And right there up at the top, you'll see there's a Create a Course link. The first thing you want to do is to come up with a course name. This needs to be a unique name. So I would encourage you to use your high school name and also the year, since next year you might want to make a new course. If you come down a little bit, down here you have to choose CSAwesome as the course that you're trying to copy and make a custom course for. You can keep everything else the same and you can donate if you'd like to. Once you set up a custom course, you can switch between courses by going to the person icon up at the top here and go to change course. So if you had already had a CSAwesome course, the public course, you could switch to that and you would see CSAwesome on the left side. Or you could now switch to your custom course. I'll switch back to test copy. And you'll see that the name changes over here too. Whichever course you're in, whatever work you do will get saved into that course, and you as the instructor will be able to see that in the instructor's page. So you need to make sure your students are all in the right course, in your course, to see their progress. So how do you get students into your course? Well, when they first sign up at the beginning of the year, if they go back to the main page and they click on sign up, right, this is where they would make up a username and enter their information and their email and so on. And they would, instead of the course name CSAwesome here, they would type in whatever your unique course name is, your high school -year or something like that. And then they would be in your course. If they've already signed up for CSAwesome, for example, they can still go to this page and notice, just like my information, it will show them their information if they're already logged in, and type in your course and get to this, okay? Another way to get to this page is if they go to change course, at the bottom there is enroll in a course or drop a course. And if they enroll in a course, it takes them to this page as well to add it. But they need to type in the unique name that you give them here. There is another way to also set up your students. You can set up your students in the instructor page, which I will show you next. Okay. So once you're in your custom course, you can click on the person icon and then go to the instructor's page. So let's do that. Let me go back to change course. Here we are, okay. And let me go to Instructor's Page. Okay. Notice there's a set of tabs across the top. You're put into the Admin tab. Right here, there's some important links. So for example, in course settings, you can enable whether you want pair programming or you want people to be able to download their active code. And you can turn these on and off each day. So if you want a day where your students work together, you could set pair programming on and then the next day turn it off, for example. When you turn it on in the course, they will be able to see in the active code a button that says share code. And they will be, no, sorry, that's for the instructors to share code with everybody else. They'll see a little text box that says pair, and there they'll be able to type in another username, and then whenever they hit save and run, their code will also be saved for that other person as well that they're sharing the code with. This share code button is actually just for instructors to share their code with the whole class. So going back to the Instructor's Page, that was in course settings. If you go down to Manage Students, you can see if any students have registered for your course. So you should check that all your students show up here under Manage Students. You can also reset their passwords if they forget their password, or remove a student. Another way to register students is with a CSV file, a comma-separated value file. So this is a spreadsheet file. So any spreadsheet file can be saved as a CSV file. And these are the columns that it needs. So you can register students that way. Be careful that there shouldn't be any special characters in these. Another thing you can do is add another instructor. Once they've registered for your course, you can add them by clicking here and hitting plus. You can download the whole log file of your course, every single interaction. You can copy assignments from another course from a previous year, for example, or you can delete your whole course. So that's the Admin tab. There's also the Gradebook, but we'll get to that once we get to grading and assignments. So here was the Admin and Manage page where you can upload a spreadsheet. Okay. But they do need to set up an account first, I think, in the pair programming. There's also a Help tab at the very end, which links to all of those helpful Runestone videos. Let's go to the Student Progress tab. So if you click on the Student Progress tab, and this course of mine doesn't really have a lot of students, it just has one student. You can see when students last interacted with the course and what they did. So 100% of the students went to 1.1, for example. If I click on a particular student, I can see exactly when they logged in last and what they did, and whether they did any of my assignments and their grades and so on. If I go back to the Student Progress tab, you can also go down and look in detail at a certain exercise. So for example, if I look at the exercise details here, it will show me how many students responded to this, what did they pick, what answers, what was hard for them, what was easy for them, and so on. So you can drill down to different assignments that way and exercises. Another way to see if students are interacting with your course is the chapter activity button. This is a blue button on the top right of the Student Progress tab, and this is really useful button to see the whole class in one snapshot. So if you go to Student Progress, click on Chapter Activity in the right here, and this shows you'll have a column for each student and how many of the activities they interacted with in each chapter. So for example, this student interacted with 7 different things in that lesson, and this student interacted with 9. Now this only shows you interactions, not if they got it right or not, but you can immediately see who's been to that lesson if you assigned it, and did they really click on run for every single activity and tried all the multiple choices. There's also other features, so you can look at when they interacted with an activity, the first interaction, the last interaction, and the number of interactions for each one. And you can also download it as a spreadsheet. So that's a very useful snapshot of the whole class. And remember, you can get to it with student progress, chapter activity right here. So all of this you can check without setting up any kind of assignments. So very useful. Also in the grading tab, you can choose a particular chapter and a question and see their work. So if you want to see, say you assigned a challenge and you want to see did people really do it, but you don't want to set up an assignment or anything, you can check up you can choose a chapter in the grading tab, let's say Unit 1, and a lot of times, there's lots of different exercises in here, including ones that other teachers may have created in the question bank. So if you type in challenge, that will get you the challenge questions at the end, and you can see each chapter, so 1.3, 1.2, and so on. So this is lesson 1.2, and if I check off all students, I can see what all of my students, what did they do with this challenge, and I can leave them comments. So let's now make an assignment. Say you want to actually make an assignment and grade it. So this is in the assignment tab, and first thing you do is click on add and come up with an assignment name like assignment 1. And then there's different things you can set here. You can set a due date, for example. You can also either make it visible to students or not. So the reason you might not make it visible to students is maybe you just want to see, did they really do these, and you're not really assigning them. Did they really go to the book and read this lesson and interact with it or something like that? So let's take a look at this. So this is in the assignments tab. First thing I do is say add, and then put in an assignment name. Let's say assignment 1 demo, let's say, create. Okay, and now I'm in assignment 1 demo. You can also go back and look at your other assignments and change them if you want. I could set a due date, but this one I'm not going to make it visible, so I won't. There's this new feature that you can show it as a timed assessment. What this does is that for the multiple choice exercises, they're usually formative, which means they can keep trying and eventually it will show them the right answer. But if you make it an assessment, it will not show them the answer until they submit the whole assessment. So it makes it into a summative evaluation. And then there's 2 sections down here, readings and problems. Under readings, this is if you want to check whether they actually went to a lesson and interacted with everything. For example, let's say we're in Unit 2 and we're in 2.1. If I check off 2.1, it tells me that there are 18 activities in there. That means there's 18 multiple choice and active codes and things that they have to interact with. One of the activity count is just for visiting the page. automatically the system chooses 75% of those as required. So maybe they missed a few, and it gives 1 point. But you can change these if you want. Only be careful with the number required, because they only get this point if they've interacted with at least 14. If they interacted with 13, for example, they're not going to get the point. Okay, so I would not make this the full 18, because it's possible they'll miss one and then they don't get the whole point. So set it up to some bar, at least 75%, 95%, something like that. But all this checks for is interaction. It does not check whether they're correct or not. If you come down to problems, this is where the grading comes in. Okay, so this is which of the problems you actually want to give points for actually getting right. So if we go to 2 again, in 2.1, actually let's choose a different one, because 2.1 has a lot of turtle code in it, which you actually can't run in the grader, so it's not a great example for that. So let's choose 2.6, for example. Okay, so if I open up 2.6, it shows me each of these. Now, the naming convention is not great, but we're stuck with it right now. But you can click on them and you can see that problem and see which one it is in that lesson. Or in another tab, you could have the lesson open so you can see which of the problems you want to assign. So the multiple choices you could assign to be graded, but as I said, they're formative, so it's not, they're eventually going to get the right answer anyway. So you might not want to grade those. And then I would at least choose the challenge to grade. So if I click on the challenge, it'll show me that. Because the multiple choice, if I look up here, let's close this, the multiple choice, it can actually auto grade. And it sets it to, you don't have to change these defaults, they're usually pretty good. It sets it to % correct because it will auto grade both the multiple choice and the Parsons problems, the mixed up code problems, and those can be % correct. So it works for both of them. So those can be auto graded, but notice any of the active codes right now have to be manually graded. That means you have to grade them. So I would suggest, don't choose all the active codes to give grades to, or if you do, set them to interaction only, that they just interact with them to auto grade them, and just grade the challenges so you don't have too much grading to do. So let me change up here instead of 2.1 to read 2.6 since we switched to 2.6. Okay, so let me save this now. Save. Okay. A couple other things to point out here. So here's a bunch of tips, and I think we pointed out all of them, but let's go through them. Okay, so the reading section up at the top, remember that they're all or nothing, so they must do all of the specified interactions. So if it was 6 out of 8 or something like that, they have to do all 6 to get the point. In the problems, not everything is auto-graded, right? Most things are multiple choice, fill in the blank, Parsons problems, but the active code needs to be manually graded, okay? So what I recommend is just choosing the challenge problems to grade manually so you don't have to grade too many, okay? And also remember that if they already did a problem in class while you were looking at that lesson, their answers are going to be saved in your course already. So if you assign it as an assignment and think that they're going to get a blank copy of it, they're not. Whatever they did already in the course, in your course, will be saved. Okay, so let's go to the grading tab and look at that now that we've done this assignment. Actually, let me make this visible so that I can show you how students now see it as well. So if I save it, okay. Okay, so a student going back to the test copy, if they go to Unit 2 and 2.6 and just do those problems, you will see their answers, whether you made the assignment visible or not. But if you made the assignment visible, they can actually click on the person icon and go to Assignments and see that assignment here outside of the lesson, okay? And see did they really do everything outside of the lesson. So this one I had already done in the lesson, so it kept my answer. This one, perhaps it didn't, okay? Although you should always load history to see if you've done anything on it before. Because sometimes it won't show it, but if you hit load history, it will. The only problem with doing the assignments on this page is that they have no help. So I would recommend telling them, to go to the lesson page to do everything on that page rather than individually like this. But this is good for reviewing and things like that as well. And one other thing to keep in mind is that the turtle code will not work on the assignment page either. There's embedded code in the lesson pages, and that's the only place the turtle code works right now. So going back to the instructor page, let's go to grading. So under grading, now I can choose this new assignment. Assignment 1 demo. Okay. Once I've graded, I can release the grades to the students. So what I like to do when I'm grading, the first thing I like to do is click on the grading tab, choose an assignment, and then do not select anything else yet. Don't select questions or students, and then click on auto grade up at the bottom. So if I scroll down, don't pick questions or students and just do auto grade. And you can either check work submitted before the deadline or uncheck it if you're allowing late work as well. Up to you. So once you do auto grade, that will grade anything that is auto gradable. So that multiple choice question will already be graded for you, okay? But remember, the active code is not. So I do that first, then I go back and grade the manually graded ones, and then I release the grades. So now I can go into questions, and I could select all if it's very little, or I could and select all the students, or I could select a particular student, and maybe I know that already. So I know that this multiple choice one, for example, already got auto graded, right? So it got 1 point and it's auto graded. So I don't have to look at that one again. And same thing with this one. It got 0 points and not auto graded. So I could not look at those ones and just look at the challenge, right? So what you can do is run their code. You should look at if they've got more than one attempt. You should look at those because sometimes their third attempt's right but their fourth one isn't, and so on. You can see their errors, and then you can assign a grade for it and say keep trying or something like that, or and they will see these comments in the assignment page so they can try again. Okay. So once you put in a grade and you switch to another tab, notice how it goes green. So if I switch to here, both will go green. That means it saved it into the database. So it automatically saves as soon as you click on a different tab. And then if I release grades, I'll be able to see the grades, or the students will now be able to see the grades. I think I have the student signed in actually. So if I go to assignments now, I'll be able to see my grade. So I got 0 out of 3, didn't do very well. And this one wasn't graded. I think I graded the other one. But any comments I have would be up here as well. Okay. So now if I want to see the grades, you can either go to the admin or the student progress tab and click on the gradebook button. So here's the gradebook button in the admin tab. In the student progress tab, here's the gradebook button right on the right here. Either one of these would take you to the gradebook. And in the gradebook, you see all your users, all your students, and you see each of the assignments you've set up. So I have a whole bunch of assignments. Assignment demo is way down here. So I can also filter. So I can say assignment 1, and I get to assignment 1 demo. 1 demo. Okay, now I'm just seeing assignment 1 demo. I can download the whole gradebook. I can also drill down, so I can click on the 33% here and see exactly what that student did. Which ones did they get points for? Which ones did they not? Okay. So you can see all of that interaction right there. Okay. You might have also noticed there was a practice column. So the practice column in the gradebook is for the practice tool, which we'll talk about in a little bit too. Okay. So what the practice tool does is that it pulls questions out of the ebook as you complete units. And there's a whole algorithm behind it that tries to bring back questions just as you might have forgotten them. So this is called interleaved practice. And the points are put into the gradebook. We have a great video on this as well, on how well it works. And this is a good thing to set up at the beginning of the year. Well, actually maybe midway through the year, once you've covered some chapters. And as you cover each chapter, you can come back to here and say, okay, I've just finished Unit 4, and it will create a whole bunch of practice for Unit 4 as well and add that into it. And then every day, let me go back to my student, that student can choose from the person icon, they can choose practice, and they will get 5 or 10 questions, however many you set up at the beginning, every day to practice. And this is a great equalizer, that it really helps students to go back, review, and practice. And the practice tool, even though it's an exercise they've seen before, notice that the answer is not shown, so they would have to actually try it again, even if they've done this before. Okay. And this kind of interleaved practice is shown by research to really improve performance. A couple other features that you might not know that you also will see in CSAwesome Explain. One is the hypothesis annotation tool. So you might have noticed this in the course when you're in a lesson. There is actually a little window on the right here. That's the annotation tool. So you can actually set up a group for your class. Please don't use the public group, because then everybody sees your annotations. So you could set up a private group just for your class, or just for yourself as you're reading the book, and then you can highlight things and add an annotation. And it will show them highlighted. You know, this is important or something like that. So you could post only to yourself or post to a particular group. So let's say only to me, and then click on it. So now, whenever I go to this page, I will see this little highlight and my little note to myself. So this is a great tool as well. But please don't use the public setting for that. Another great feature is that you can actually write your own exercises, although this is a little bit tricky, and you can use other people's exercises that they've written. So if we go back to the instructors page and go to the assignments, at the bottom here of problems, you can click on write and actually write your own exercise. So if you write, and let's say we want a multiple choice exercise, and go, it shows you the type of RST code you would have to write for this, okay? And sometimes it's easier to start with something and change it around. So if you click on, say, one of these, and then do edit question, it will show you the question and you can actually just change it. Now you have to be really careful with the spacing. So this blank space here has to be there. The tabbing over of everything underneath the active code has to be there. And you have to rename it to something unique, okay? Once you've made your changes, you can view it and save it under a name, and then you'll have a new assignment, okay? But you can also just use other people's assignments that people have created, and these you can find in each unit. There is an exercises lesson. I think it's this one, multiple choice exercises, and this is where all the crowdsources exercises are put. Notice how many there are here. So if I went and looked at this lesson, really there's only 10 questions in there up to here. So if you went and compared with the lesson, these are the actual multiple choice exercises in there, okay? But then after that are all the different exercises that other people added, okay? So there's some PD ones, for example, for reflection, okay? This was Beth Simon's students took every exercise up here and created 2 other versions of it. So these are really good exercises that you could choose. And they've been vetted. Notice that the rest of them, though, have not been vetted. So some of these might not be very good. Let's see if there's any that aren't really completed. Well, these don't look bad at all, but sometimes, you know, they're not good exercises and they haven't been vetted yet. So you got to be careful. And if you try to choose this whole lesson, it will actually give you a warning. You're about to add 60 exercises. Do you really want to do that? Because this is a quiz bank and some might be good, some might not be good. So you really need to look through them and choose the appropriate ones. The nice thing about this is maybe they already saw all of these in the lesson. These are brand new down here that other people have written. So you could assign these as assessments or as assignments that they haven't seen before. Okay, so that's very useful. There's also a video about writing your own exercises as well. So I hope you enjoyed this brief overview, and feel free to ask questions in the group as well as you explore all these features.